Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back. And if you are just tuning in with me for the very first time, it's so nice to meet you. And I'm really glad you're here with me today. I am your host, Heather Carey, nutritionist, chef, mom, and a woman who has been around the block with food. I want to open up about real food in relation to health, weight, and our bodies so you can make peace with what you eat. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Real Food Stories podcast. Before we dive into today's conversation, I want to take a moment to acknowledge something we all know, but don't always talk about openly, and that is our drinking. Alcohol isn't doing us any favors. I think that is pretty clear by now, especially in midlife. Alcohol has been a huge focus in the news lately, and I believe that the research is crystal clear. Alcohol can negatively impact our weight, make us more prone to certain cancers, heart disease, diabetes, and not to mention our sleep, our hormones, our metabolism, and our overall well-being. And yet, for so many of us, alcohol has such a strong pull. Whether it's the social aspect, the stress relief we associate with it, or simply the habit, letting go of alcohol can feel really challenging. So that's why I'm so excited for today's guest, because she has been there and she's experienced that pull firsthand. So let me introduce you to Emily Allen. Emily is a certified alcohol-free life coach who helps women break free from wine mom culture as they transition to their empty nest years. After transforming her own relationship with alcohol while raising her two children, she now guides women in creating an exciting next chapter filled with clarity, authentic connections, and true freedom. Her unique approach combines alcohol-free living with midlife transformations, helping women turn this major life transition into an opportunity for profound personal growth. So welcome, Emily. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is an honor.
Great. Let's just jump into your story first. I want to hear how you got here, what drinking was like for you in your quote unquote former life, and how did you know that it was time to stop?
Yeah, so I started drinking socially, I would call it, back like it was after I was married, but it was more of just a social way when we go out with other couples. And then as um, we adopted our children, and so I wasn't really drinking much then. I mean, I still use it as just like a way to socialize, a way to have a quote unquote quote fun. And then as the years progressed, I noticed that it was becoming more of a habit, like you would say, like it was a part of it, it became a part of my nightly ritual eventually. And so it was still, to me, it felt social because that was when I did the majority of drinking, like with other moms. We would have moms' nights out that always involved, wine and food. Um, and then and then as my kids got older, and then especially during COVID, because I was not going out and so quote unquote socializing with others, but I was still having nightly wine. Um, it was a rare occasion that I didn't drink at night, and it was just a way for what I started to recognize. It was a way for me to just like numb out, basically. I mean, I didn't understand it at the time, but that's what I was doing, just sort of numbing out, especially with all the stress that was going on. Um, and I really got to the point where I realized there was not a single night that I wouldn't do it. And I knew it was affecting my sleep. I knew because I would wake up in the mornings feeling that hungover, dry mouth, headache, just low energy every single morning. And I got so used to it that I almost just thought that was normal. And then it was like Christmas Eve, I guess 2020, I, stayed up, finishing up wrapping presents, drinking, and I could just refill my glass. Like, nobody was there to count, and I wasn't counting. And so when I woke up Christmas morning, I just had a horrible hangover. And I'm like, this is not, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this over and over again? This is not who I want to be. I know there's so much more, but I was so scared to try because it was my security blanket. So, but I did decide, I was like, I'm going to try dry January 2021. I'm like, I'm just going to try it. And I really didn't want to tell people because I was afraid that I couldn't do it. But I did it. And I mean, we could talk more about how that went, but that was the turning point for me, was just taking that break and feeling the differences and seeing the differences almost immediately. I mean, within the first 3 weeks, I was definitely aware of how much better I felt.
It's this like wine mom culture,
Mhm.
right? It's
Mhm.
mommy's juice, moms need to drink. I definitely had that too. I mean, there was absolutely this camaraderie and this, uh, you know, just general overall thinking like, yeah, you definitely need a glass of wine every single night. Like, how else are you going to deal with your young kids?
Exactly.
And knowing in the back of my head, like, I know that that's kind of wrong, but everyone's doing it.
Yes.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, it just makes it so acceptable. And then it sounds like for you, then it turned, once you had like the COVID happened and it wasn't really about social life. You couldn't like say, well, you're having a mom's night out or I'm having a, but then it shifted to something else. Like I need to cope. It's
Mhm.
COVID.
Yeah.
I'm sure for you, like so all of us, it was like extremely stressful. And then you had your light bulb moment, right, on
Yeah.
Christmas,
Yeah.
which yes, I can relate to that too. I had one of those days too where I woke up
Mhm.
extremely hungover and said, I mean, I don't know what it was, my intuition, my higher power. I don't know, just something
Yeah.
like, you can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I knew, and at that point for me, I was about to step into like empty nesting and stuff. And I
Mhm.
knew that that would be a big mistake if I were still drinking. If I had no kids at home, and it was just my husband and myself,
Yeah.
I knew intuitively that that was not going to serve me well.
Yeah.
So I'm almost, in a way, like looking back, and maybe you too, feel like I'm glad for that experience that I had, that one night that I had, that just made me feel like enough is enough. How about
Mhm.
you? Did you feel the same?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I was thinking about when you were talking to, like, with COVID, and using it to cope and all of that, and then also thinking I'm increasing my alcohol use so much. Like, when it's over, what am I going to? Am I now like all of a sudden just drinking 2 bottles of wine a night? Like, how does that happen? And how do I, almost like, how do I maintain that? I don't want to maintain that? And also thinking about the future me, especially as empty nest is approaching. At that time, my kids were still at home. Now I have one in college and one who's in high school. But I thought, once they're older, gone, yeah, I would just continue to do this and feel like I don't have to drive anybody anywhere. I don't have to, go to a early morning soccer game so I can be hungover in the morning, and who's it going to affect? Just me. Um, and thinking even further into, like, when I'm potentially a grandmother, who knows? That may happen, it may not, but I don't want, my kids to think, well, we don't want grandma to help take care of the kids because she couldn't, she's might start drinking later that night. Like, all of that just sort of, those, when I would wake up at 3 in the morning with that surge of adrenaline that comes, after a night of drinking, sometimes those thoughts would pop into my mind. And then you just think, oh my gosh, this has got to stop. But then 5 o'clock comes around and you just pick it up again, pick up the glass again and keep going. So yeah, once I got through that first day, honestly, that first full day, January 1st, I mean, I was hungover again because New Year's Eve, I was like, this might, who knows, this might be the
The
last
last
time.
hurrah.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's like, let's finish off all of the wine in the house. So I probably felt bad enough on that day that it was okay. So we'll say maybe like the second day of January when I was like, this is it. I'm fully like, don't have, I mean, I still obviously had the effects of alcohol in my system, but that day of just getting through it, getting through dinner time especially was my trigger time because I would, when I was cooking dinner, that's when I would start drinking for the evening. Like I would start when I started making dinner.
Hmm.
Such a routine, such a habit that I was thinking, how am I going to do this? Um, and I just did it with, I still used my exact same like stemless wine glass that I would use, but I put in LaCroix and I had orange slices, just whatever I could do to still feel like that had that ritual, but get through that day. And once I got through that day, it just gave me that hope of like, I can possibly do this. Like, and I started feeling better by day 7. I mean, it took a little while. Sleep was rough those first few nights because I was used to having enough alcohol in my system that I could just, basically lay down, fall asleep. So once the alcohol was out, then my body was trying to learn how to fall asleep on its own. So
Hmm.
that was a little rough at first, a little unexpected. Um, but then once I got through that, then sleep was like glorious, like the best thing I ever had. I would wake up feeling like amazing. I was like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to feel.
This is how you're supposed to sleep, right? And you wake
Yes.
up feeling, yeah.
Yeah. And so that was just amazing. So that just encouraged me to keep going to see. I knew that there were other positive effects that might take longer to show up, but that just gave me that push that, yeah, you are doing this and this is what you're supposed to be doing. And even though it wasn't super duper easy peasy, but it was, I knew I could do it.
I had um maybe one or two times where I tried dry January too,
Mhm.
but my mindset was very different
Mhm.
because I was in a mindset of I'm going to have to tough out 30 days or
Yeah.
31 days, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I cannot wait for February 1st, right? Like I can't like just get me through it. Like I was like, like gripping.
Yes.
And I think the two times I had tried it, I don't even think I made it because then my birthday is in January and then there's something else, like
Right. There's
it was
always.
the Super Bowl was something like there's
Mhm.
always something
Yeah.
to divert me. So when I stopped and I said to myself, it wasn't January, it was a random day in May. So it was, but I said, I'm going to go 30 days. And my mindset felt very different then.
Mhm.
I just felt like I had maybe more of like a why behind it. Like
Yeah.
why I mean, that was the difference. So when you stop for, because a lot of people do dry January
Mhm.
and then either probably like me, like don't make it. And, like things, it's like any resolution, things just fade away
Yes. Yeah.
or they make it and then they start drinking again.
Mhm.
So what was the difference for you that got you past like day 31 in
Yeah.
January?
Yeah. I think I kind of use dry January as like my cover because so many people do it, like you're saying. So it was a way that um, I could just say I'm doing dry January. In my mind, I knew I wanted to quit forever. I knew I needed to quit, right? But I was terrified that I really wouldn't be able to do it. And then what does that say about me? I'm like, what does that mean if I can't make it 31 days or even 2 weeks? Like, so I used it to protect myself and that I could tell people that without feeling any kind of weirdness because there's always this judgment. I don't know if it's just a perceived judgment or if there is literal judgment, but you feel like if you are taking a break, that there's something quote unquote like wrong with you, that you can't handle alcohol.
Yeah, you have a problem,
You have a
quote
problem.
unquote problem, right?
Yes. Yes. So I had, I felt that in me at the time. Now I've completely been able to release all of that, which is amazing. But at the time, that's where I was. So I knew I wanted to quit. I knew I wanted that to be the end. And getting myself through that month, I feel like that by the end of January, I knew there was no going back for me. And I knew moderation was never going to work for me. I had tried to semi moderate, not in the terms of not drinking on certain days, but just not drinking as much on certain days. Like, oh, during the week, I'll only have one glass. No. And just that whole mental
Well,
gymnastics of
there's
it.
always an excuse, right? I mean, moderation, I think, is the most confusing word in the English language because, I mean, even when it comes to food, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
everything in moderation, but what on earth does moderation mean? I did the same thing. I mean, I said I would 100 times, I'm only gonna drink on the weekends. I'm only gonna maybe on like a Tuesday if I go out with friends and a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens if it's Wednesday
Yeah.
and friends want to go out? Then do I not drink on that Wednesday? I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
I think, I call it decision fatigue. You probably have
Yes.
heard of that. I mean, there's just, like try. So I think when I then quit, I was like, it is just a no. It's a no. And
Yeah.
that just felt so much easier for me than to try to figure out moderation.
Totally. Yeah. It's the weight off of your shoulders. Yeah. Your no means no. And
Yeah,
this is
it's just a no. I mean, just like let's not try to like, right. I'll only have 2 drinks on Friday. I don't know. It just that never worked for me. So
no. Yeah. Because there's always the somebody else, just tops off your glass and all of a sudden now it's two and a half. And then, well, why not just have four?
right. Right. Yeah. So that got yeah. So I think moderation. I mean, some people can do moderation, but I think for the rest of us that if you're really serious about losing alcohol in your
Mhm.
life, I think moderation's real is much harder, I think,
Much harder.
than just stopping it.
I agree. Totally. So much harder because yeah, the trying to keep track and bargaining with yourself. And then you inevitably let yourself down. And that feeling is icky. And that's what I was feeling over and over was I was always letting myself down. And I feel like that's how moderation can get eventually for people who are trying to do that. But yeah.
Yeah, yes, I know. I think so when I stopped drinking for good, I think that was a big driver for me is I didn't want to let myself down.
Mhm.
This felt too important to me and I
Yeah.
wanted to keep going and I made it to like I kind of did increments of 30 days and like I couldn't believe I did 30 days and like, and then I was like, let me challenge myself to do another 30 days. And when I got to day 60, I was astounded. I hadn't gone 60 days in
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and then it just like kept going. And then I could, and then all of a sudden it's a year and now it's almost 7 years in May
That's
for me.
awesome.
And I, I'm sure same for you. That probably was the same feeling like, wow, like,
Yeah.
all of a sudden here it is a couple months, then a year, then
Mhm.
2 years. And it's a really nice feeling.
Yeah.
But along the way, there's a lot of things. You mentioned a couple of things like the judgment from
Yeah.
people and the fear of that. And I definitely felt so much of that too. I mean, I think in the end, you might lose friends. Your friendships shift,
Yep.
right? Because those people that you are, that, you realize the people that you bonded with through alcohol or wine
Mhm.
that once you stop, that might make them uncomfortable or they don't know how to relate to you without
Yeah.
having a glass of wine
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
hand. And did you feel like that happened with you?
Yeah. And that was probably that was up there in my level of things that I was nervous about. And COVID kind of protected me too, because I wasn't going out in 2021, things were kind of slowly starting, but at the time. So that also gave me this little cover blanket of not being out with a friend and then me being all of a sudden not ordering wine. But eventually it did, all those experiences did happen, but I kind of had some time under my belt and felt a lot more confident in myself. So I mean, I think for anybody who's thinking about it and is nervous about that, I mean, you can always sort of find ways to not necessarily go out at first if you feel like that's going to be the thing that's going to hold you back. I mean, there's ways to get out of it. Um, and then once I did the first time ordering like a club soda and lime or something, at a restaurant that's a nice restaurant that has a beautiful wine list and beautiful bar and all that. It felt strange, but then once it arrived and I was drinking that, I felt so empowered. It's like, here I am, I'm going to feel great tomorrow morning. And I just kind of got through that first hurdle, and it felt amazing. And so after that, kind of just getting through that first encounter, it doesn't bother me at all anymore. And I do know that I don't say no, but I feel like if I'm with other people who are all drinking, it might feel awkward to them that I'm not, but I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I don't care anymore either. But I know that when I first was out socializing with people that I was so afraid of like, right, them being uncomfortable
Hmm. Hmm.
with my not drinking,
Yes.
which sounds
Yeah.
so silly now, but
Well,
but
yeah.
back then that's just how I was like, oh, I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. I'm not going to be drinking a glass of wine. I'm really happy that I didn't ever cave into that,
Right.
and that and I think sometimes right, so you do have to like maybe shift your socializing
Hmm. Hmm.
a little bit. I mean, even still now, I mean, a lot of times I'll just rather than meet friends out at a bar for their glasses of wine, I'll meet for coffee or I'll meet for breakfast or, like
Yeah.
just something different like that. Do you feel like that you kind of shifted your socializing?
Yeah, totally. And I'm just it shows too how much you can get to know somebody so much better when you are, yeah, like having breakfast, having coffee, going for a walk versus it being, yeah, like, the scene at the bar, ordering the glasses, talking about the wine, just it all sort of revolved around that. So surface level. And and then after a certain amount of time, you're just repeating yourself too. Once everybody's been drinking for a couple hours, nobody's really listening to each other. It's
Mhm.
just,
Exactly.
so that has changed. And that now when I do spend time with friends, I feel like I'm actually getting to know them and talking about real things. And that has been huge. And then meeting new people too. Like I've tried to be in places where there are more people that might not necessarily be sober, but just kind of just it's secondary, third, tertiary. Like they don't even really care about it that much. And so that's been amazing too. Just opening myself up to new friendships and new relationships that are based off of just wanting to get to know each other. So
Absolutely. I mean, that is something I've wanted to do too, is just seek out people who
mhm.
were like alcohol is not the main focus and that it's not the main activity of what
Yes,
we're
yeah,
doing. Because I certainly was doing that.
yeah,
And
me too.
I want to have real conversations and real friendships. And like I said before, I mean, some of my relationships with some friends really shifted a lot. I've
Mhm.
lost a couple of friends
Yeah,
because I stopped drinking. Do you feel the
yeah,
same that
yeah,
it
yeah,
happened? And that felt very hurtful at first. That
yeah,
some people like I was like, can you not relate to me if I don't have a glass of wine in my hand? But it's okay. It's all
yeah.
right because I would rather be who, here and have and make new friends and have, real deep friendships than
Mhm.
have it be surface level.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the way that it's got to just be some kind of reflection back on them. Not, it's not us putting out the vibe that we don't want to hang out with you if you still drink because it's something that's coming in from them, inside of them that they just don't want to see, don't want to go there in their own mind. And so, yeah, it's not the best feeling when that happens. But then in the end, I think it's the only way it's going to happen.
I think it's sometimes other women. I mean, it kind of forces them to look at them, they're drinking. I mean, I
Yeah.
know that when I was drinking and there was the one person who was not drinking, I'm like, you're no fun.
Yes.
So like,
Yes.
and I don't want you to look at me while I'm drinking, like, or judge
Right.
me,
Yes.
for what I'm doing. And,
Yes.
and I'm not, I don't, you do you, like you drink
Mhm.
as much as you want. Like, I'm not judging anybody
Yeah.
for their drinking. I'm just focused on me,
Yes.
and what I'm doing. But
Yeah.
I think that it forces, not forces, I think nudges people to look at their own drinking.
Yeah. If that's something that they're already kind of struggling with, then it just becomes like a mirror onto them that it's not again, we're not doing it on purpose. We're not out here judging them, but it's inevitable, I think, with some people based on what their relationship is at the time with alcohol. So,
Yes. And you mentioned something about the habits before, about the link between, you would start cooking in the evenings and then that when you'd pour a glass of wine. And I think for me, that was one of the biggest eye openers, that I had not connected this relationship between like my habits, like my
mhm.
just my day-to-day activities, and like pouring a glass of wine. And it was eye-opening for me. I couldn't believe it, that like you do it on autopilot
Yeah.
sometimes. It's 5 o'clock, it's Friday, and it was just like automatic without thought. I
Yeah.
took the glass out of the cabinet. You said your stemless wine glass. You're like
Mhm.
all of those little subtle things
Mhm.
where, and then if you start cooking, if you're having a bad day, it's Friday happy hour. I
Mhm.
mean, right, the links between all of these. And so I get why it is so difficult sometimes to stop,
Yeah.
or to think about stopping, because you have a lot invested in
Totally.
in your habits with it. And so that really, I had to really like unravel like a lot of
Mhm.
that, those kind of habits, and replace it. Did you find this too, that like I had to like find other things to put in its place, or even like create a mocktail, or
Yeah.
like make get my wine glass out and then like but make like a something like pretty in it and
Mhm.
alcohol free, and but just other things like Friday happy hour. I had, I think I know at the beginning I found like a yoga class that was at like 5 o'clock on
Mhm.
Fridays.
Mhm.
And that turned into my happy hour for a little while.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Do you feel like you had to like to kind of disconnect these, like unlink
Yeah.
these like habits from your wine?
Yes, totally. And once I started kind of learning about it too, it's like you really do build new neural pathways. I mean, those neural pathways that were there that were such the habit of 5 o'clock, starting dinner, wine, um, to let those pathways go away and build these new ones. That was what I really focused on probably for the first 6 months, because once I knew what I was doing, it was empowering to know that that is actually what I was doing.
Hmm.
So yeah, with the glass and the mocktail, I mean, I felt like I spent more money on mocktails at the beginning than I used to on wine, because some of them are expensive.
I
Those,
know.
I love those Curious Elixirs. I don't know if you've tried those brand.
Hmm.
They're so good, but they're a little pricey. So, but then
Yeah.
eventually I got to where I didn't have to have the mocktail anymore, and just anything was
Right.
fine.
Me too.
But
Yeah.
but I gave myself all the grace in the world during those first times doing that. So that was the one. And then my like habit routine was to stay in the kitchen after dinner, cleaning up, and then like scrolling, on the internet and still drinking. So I knew I got to get my butt out of the kitchen once dinner was over. So I kind of went to a new location. Like I'd go to sit up on my bed, watch TV, and have hot tea. So that became like my new evening ritual, and I just did that over and over and over again until that's what my body craved and that's what I wanted. Because the cravings too, I'm sure you probably had those cravings that would hit, and then just learning how to ride it out, knowing that it would go away, but having those new rituals in place, then those would they just disappeared. I mean, I never thought that I could at originally, like I didn't think I would ever be able to not think about wine when I was cooking dinner. And, I mean, I just made dinner last night. I don't even think I had water out. I probably should have had some water, but it all went away. It just shows how our brains can change and heal. And that's so encouraging too, knowing we can change all of that. Um, so yeah, and I love there's a 6 o'clock yoga class now that I've on Fridays that I've kind of started going to. I didn't have that back then, but it's great to find those things to do instead.
Yeah. Yeah. I almost like, I have to like maybe find my old list somewhere, but I remember making a list of like just, kind of brainstorming a list of all the things that I could do
Yeah.
in its place when I had those, like those connections.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
And I know you just mentioned cravings. I mean,
Mhm.
that's definitely, I think that makes the difference between like, knowing that you're having a craving and that cravings are temporary, like cravings will, you can just feel it, but they will pass,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And that, if this is important to you and you have a big why, behind it, that you want to, right, just know that those cravings dissipate and that you're replacing them. Like, you
Mhm.
had your evening tea every night and it sounds like you went up to your bedroom, right? So you're like away from your kitchen, like
Yeah.
away from like the trigger room, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, this is
true.
no different really than food, like if we're
Right.
talking about
Yeah.
like weight loss and food and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah, really good just reminders. So you focus on women in midlife
Mhm.
and empty nesting. Did you I know that this is your story too, right? That you're in midlife and empty nesting or about to be an empty nester,
Yeah.
maybe in a year. Do you find that this age group is different in some way?
Yeah, I feel like it's such a great opportunity for change, for potential, because everything is really about the change. I mean, everything that we've spent the last, 20 years doing or more, if you have more than one child, then it could span even longer than that amount of time. So once they start they're kind of leaving and starting their life, and I can see how there can be that feeling of, well, now what about me? Like this was my goal, was to get you to launch, but I didn't really spend a whole lot of time thinking about what it would mean for me. So I feel like it's just this amazing opportunity to find out what you really like to do, rediscover, especially once getting the alcohol out of the picture. Like I was able to rediscover things that I um, just, forgot about, that I probably that I liked back before when I was in my 20s, and then just let it go away. And then being able to also see like the health benefits that can come from it. I mean, when you're in your 20s drinking, 30s drinking, yeah, you're not going to feel great all the time, but it's definitely hits a little different once you've, passed into that middle age mark. I mean, even just the way that we metabolize, especially women metabolize alcohol, changes once we've gone through menopause. And so it's all just affecting us differently too. So I feel like it's just this great time to just let it go, or at least try letting it go and see how you feel and see what comes up and what you can imagine for yourself now. Um, yeah, because I mean, during this time, like I've started a whole new career, so it's just something that if I was still stuck in the kitchen drinking every night, that's what I would still be doing, tonight. So with getting it out is what has just changed. And you kind of feel a little bit of that liberation too once your kids are growing up. I mean, they're doing their thing and they don't need you for all the things anymore. And so it gives you that sense of, okay, now it's my time to really focus on me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I totally get what you're saying. And I think it is such a good opportunity to consider maybe losing the wine, our wine habits and everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's also, like I had said before, like I knew, like there was that, it was almost like a crossroads. Like I could have stayed drinking and said like, oh, phew, we finally made it. My kids are out of the house. They're living on their own, and that's what's happening. And, so let's celebrate every night and let's,
Mhm.
let's open up a new bottle of wine. Because without my kids at home and like them like sort of watching over, like or seeing what I was doing,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could have seen myself going down a bigger road. And I mean, the thing is, I don't know if you've like read statistics, but drinking in midlife is definitely, and I probably from COVID
yeah,
on really went gangbusters. I mean, so like, I mean, heavy drinking with women in midlife.
yeah,
And it's not great. I mean, it's not, it's like the statistics are really kind of alarming.
yes,
And yeah, and then throw in, all the like health issues, midlife, menopause, your incidence for heart disease, strokes, cancers. I mean, it all boom, like goes
yeah,
goes
yeah,
way up at this point. So and the connection between alcohol and health issues is huge. And then right, not being able to like metabolize alcohol like we
yeah,
used to.
yes.
So it is a great time to consider losing alcohol from your life. But
Mm,
sometimes, I could see, I just have some people I know that like, I mean, it's very ingrained in them. I mean, don't talk to them about like stopping drinking. Like,
yeah,
like,
I
like it's
know.
not going to happen. I mean, maybe it will, but a big part of their lives. But
Yeah,
everyone's different, right? I mean, everyone
yes.
does things on their own terms. Tell me, just what have you seen from women in midlife empty nesting? I mean, have you seen like really positive results from the people you work with? And
Yeah, yeah. And um, just being, especially, it seems like almost like the entrepreneurship seems to be like something that um, pops up the most, and just, oh, I could, not necessarily starting their own business, but, or starting, or if they're, had artistic aspirations before, like that coming back, like creativity, I would say is sort of what kind of is the underlying um, characteristic in all of the things that pop up is that your creativity surges and you can actually start to delve into it more. Um, so yeah, I think that would be the biggest thing. And then energy, oof, that is something that I think we just assume as we get older that we're going to have less and less energy. But I,
try drinking and
yes,
right. And
yes,
right. I mean,
yeah,
right. I mean, at least like right, taking away that like sedative, I mean, is
yeah,
gonna absolutely like benefit your energy.
yeah. And so then you've got, if somebody's a traveler, like all of a sudden now that's just easier, more enjoyable. Um, and yeah, and everything with the whole cancer thing is that really surprised me seeing the statistics with that, especially breast cancer. Something that we know, obviously, that's something that for women is one of probably always in the back of most of our heads is,
Hmm.
whether you have a family history or not. And once I saw how much, even one drink a day greatly increases your risk for breast cancer. And I was like, what? Gosh, like it was just all of the things that I thought I was doing to be so healthy in every other way of my life, but then drinking every night, which just completely, not only canceled it out, but also canceled out the good things I was doing and then it was increasing my risk too. So I think, I know we can't completely control whether or not it's going to happen to us, but feeling like you've got a teeny bit of control in that regard, like just taking this out will help, will not increase my risk anymore. So,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's kind of a good feeling that at least you might know that you're not contributing or
yeah,
aiding and abetting,
yeah, yeah,
more risk.
yes,
And I think some other things, I mean, just to, I don't know, when you stop drinking, just the clarity you have in your head. I mean, it's not that life turns like all of a sudden into like a miraculous like bed of roses every single
Yeah.
day. But the peace of mind I know that I have, it just is outweighs anything. It
Yeah.
outweighs that like urge to go and like start drinking again. And
Oh, yeah. No,
it's,
you know
yeah.
what that means too. And I don't know if I had just, I didn't realize the kind of level of anxiety that I had that was just sort of a baseline, like jitteriness feeling. I thought that was because I had kids and I had this and that. And then taking it, once the alcohol got out, after that was probably one of the things I really noticed after about a full month of being alcohol free. Um, I was like, I don't feel this racing of my heart anymore when I'm just, doing nothing. Whereas before, I always just felt this low lying level of anxiety. And that's gone away. I mean, I can still be anxious. I can be anxious about things. It's not like I can't be, but it's not just constant low grade anxiety. That was a huge eye-opening thing for me
Yeah,
too.
I mean, well, that alcohol and that like disrupted sleep gives you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's right. I mean, so at least if you're going to have anxiety, have it with a clear head,
Right.
right? And not because of, too many glasses of wine the night before. Because I know I find nothing worse than that feeling.
Oh,
What is
yeah.
it called? Hangxiety, right? A
Yeah.
hangover with anxiety.
Yes.
It's,
Yeah. The worst combination.
yeah, the worst. So, any other takeaways do you think for women? I mean, I think like we said, I think this is a midlife and just this empty nest time is such a good time to consider if you're considering it
Yeah.
going alcohol free.
Yeah. And so I know it can feel scary, right? Because we both sort of talked about that. And you think about your social connections and just your traditions, even. And I just want to encourage anybody that you can work through those. Like those things eventually become completely forgotten. Like you don't worry about the social part anymore. You don't worry about, if you're going on your vacation, your family vacation, where you would always have drinks with your family or whatever, like that part of it goes away quickly. So I just don't want anybody to feel like that's what's holding them back. And also like the stigma of, oh, I'm reevaluating my relationship with alcohol. What are people going to think? I mean, in that thing, you do have to work through it, which we also discussed. It's a real feeling, but it's so worth it on the other side. It's like impossible to describe sometimes how worth it
Yeah.
it is.
Yes.
So, so I just, the things that people have in their mind that's holding them back, I just encourage them to work through those, to understand that it's normal to have those feelings, but they will all be gone once you've made it through to the other side.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know that I struggle. I mean, I feel like I almost like still struggle a tiny every once in a while. I think it's just a very old habit
Yeah.
that I'm like, oh, a holiday's coming. And,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
you know, I have family members who still,
Okay. Yeah.
alcohol is very central to the holiday.
Hmm.
And it's just a habit. It's not that I'm gonna go and drink, but it just that like initial like, oh, everyone else is drinking. But I but I think the new habit for me though is to consider what's I'm going to be feeling like the next day. And
Yes.
I'm going to be getting up on the next morning and going to the gym.
Hmm.
And you are not because
Yes.
you are going to be very hungover and feeling miserable. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So I think that's another good thing to think about. Just right, like just those triggers that you think I can
Mhm.
never, like, there's no way I could survive a holiday without alcohol, or
Yeah.
there's no way it's my birthday. I can't do that unless I'm drinking champagne.
Uh-huh.
You absolutely can.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
can, and you can do it and actually have fun.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting through all those first year things was so, once you did everything, the first Christmas, your first birthday, all of that, once you get it behind you once, you're like, oh, I can do it again. And
Absolutely.
you might be an example to somebody else too in your family, an encourager, too. So,
Yes. Yeah. Well, Emily, this was such a great talk. I'm so happy
well,
to always meet other people who have
yeah.
a similar story as me, and tell me what you do with clients, how you work with them, and where they can find you.
Yeah. So my Instagram handle and my is Living Free with Emily. And then my website is livingfreewithemily.com. And I am about to launch a 12-week group program. I feel like group programs are super helpful because you are able to connect with other women that are at the same stage as you. So we'll move through um, what modules with some live videos, live group calls, and then a Slack community to be able to support each other through that 12-week period. So that's launching May 12th, and you can get on the wait list on my website. And I also have a free quiz that's called What's Your Empowered Alcohol-Free Personality? So it's just a fun quiz to kind of show you if you were alcohol-free, what was your personality reflect that
Mhm.
alcohol-free
I like
empowerment
that.
of it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's fun. So that's on my website too. And yeah, so I'm excited to working in the group format with women. I love the opportunity to build that connection and that community. That's really what I'm drawn to. So yeah, that's where I am, and that's what I'm doing.
I think that sounds great because quitting alcohol can feel very lonely,
Mhm.
and I think community around it is really everything. And I
Yeah,
think so when you have other women who are going through the same thing with you, it's hugely impactful. And I think it helps with your commitment to
yeah,
staying alcohol free. So
yeah.
that's fantastic. So May 12th. Okay. Well, those links will be in my show notes and everyone can reach out there. And Emily, thank you so much. I really appreciate you telling your story and look forward to seeing what you do with your
Thank
groups.
you. Thank you for sharing yours too. I love having these conversations with fellow alcohol-free people.
Yeah, no, me too. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And as always, if you loved this podcast, please consider gifting me with a 5-star review. It is so helpful for me to get the word out on real eating, our real bodies, and real food stories. Thank you so much and have a great week. Bye for now.